All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce one of the partners for the Kentucky's Own Music Festival, Lyfe Chaser and the Lyfe Chaser podcast crew. As you see their sign, Lyfe Chaser, the podcast.
It's big.
Hey, there's your trivia question. Where did she steal that from? So, this first gentleman is Monty, Cole, Chase, and we have two very special guests that so graciously agreed to join us tonight. David messed up and told me they were coming in a day early, and I said, hey, you want to do a podcast? And he graciously agreed to that, and we appreciate you guys for doing that for us tonight.
No problem.
So David and Teresa Prince, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for them. I'm going to turn it over to Lyfe Chaser.
All right, and we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back once again.
It's just like sitting in the
living room right now.
Got a little feedback. I got a few things right here. Hey, thanks to the Dam Brewhaus.
Certainly.
And great beer.
Thank you all for coming. First live podcast.
First live podcast. So I got a few things about David and Teresa. And you recently opened up for Tyler Childers at Red Rocks. You played at the Mother Church of Country Music, the Ryman.
Oh, wow.
Johnny Knoxville recently said Laid Back was his favorite new band. You released a new album, went to, I think, between 8 and 10 on the charts.
Which would be 9.
9. There you go. And
boy, that's some good counting right there.
all the musical things y'all do that we all know, we wanted to start out with your kind of the personal, more personal, David and Teresa. And our podcast is all about telling stories and how it helps people. And I think y'all have a very unique story and a great life story. So if we could start from kind of the beginning, or where did y'all start? How did y'all meet? And who is David and Teresa?
Man, these are hard questions.
These are hard questions.
Well, we met in high school.
Yeah.
We went to Lawrence County High School, which is in Lawrence County, Kentucky, the far eastern side of the state. You know, we're right on the West Virginia border. County of about 14,000 people. There's only one high school.
Mm-hmm.
She lived out in a little community called Blaine.
Martha,
I'm sorry.
There's a difference.
Martha Blaine.
Yeah, so they have their own school up to 8th grade.
Well, Blaine is the school that's there that people that live in Martha go to.
Then we all get thrown in together at 9th grade, and we just got to know each other, had a few classes together.
Well, he first started out hanging out with my sister.
Oh.
Who is, let me tell you, who is drop dead gorgeous. Looks like Dolly Parton. I mean, lovely lady. But he was hanging out with her. She's awesome, funny. I hung out with her. She was great. But anyway, he hung out with her, and that's how I saw him, because I was hanging out with my sister. And one day he was at the breakfast table, and him and it might have been Jeff Rogers
And Ed Cordell.
and probably Ed Cordell too. That's all his buddies, and I like to think that they're my buddies too. But anyway, so they had this little drinking game that they did at the breakfast table with their juices, and so they'd take that drink and drink it down, just like, bam, I did something today. I was like, okay. And then, of course, I had to try.
Now, let me
After
clarify.
they left.
Hold on, let me clarify. This is school grape juice. And if school grape juice in the 1980s would take your breath. I mean, it was right.
Is at least 8%.
Oh,
right?
at least. So if you could slam those things, you've done something.
That was probably my first
That's your first
signing of him. And everybody knew him because he played guitar. He was like the high school guitar player, and he had his own band, Codethel.
Codethel.
So, I mean, he was like, one of the popular kids, and I did not think of myself as that at all. So, but that was my first signing.
David, do you remember?
Oh, absolutely. I remember hanging out, and she didn't say a word. She was very quiet. She would just surrender her juice and just sit there and watch us drink them down. But some way we started communicating back and forth, and she's got a wicked sense of humor, but she wouldn't let you know it. But after we started talking, she's really funny.
Well, he would call the house pretending to call for Evelyn. That's my sister's name.
Uh-huh.
So he'd call for her, and she'd be gone or something, and he'd talk to me.
Pretending.
And then,
Pretending.
And then one time when I was in the 12th grade, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I sent off. You know how you get. Yeah, you
They don't
don't
know.
They don't know. They're
Just
young.
pretend.
He's
We
got
do.
gray in his beard. He may
He
know.
probably
You
does.
might
He
know.
probably
I'm
does.
Anyway.
the closest to knowing as anybody, probably.
He knows.
You used to get these little cards in the mail saying, "Oh, do you want to join the armed forces? You're interested?"
Yep.
Well, I was like, "Well, heck yeah,
You
sure.
send off, and you get a
Let's
free
do this."
pair of wristbands. It said
I
Navy.
didn't get anything free. Okay, this was like, I was just trying to figure out what to do,
Yeah.
and so he calls one day, pretending like he was a what do you call those
Recruiter?
people?
Recruiter.
A recruiter.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Scared me to death. I was like, well, I was just, filling out this form. I don't know about all this. And then finally
He recruited you.
Yeah, right, dude. And so far, it's been successful.
Old trickster.
but that's a story we don't tell.
No, we've never
Really?
told it.
Yeah.
We've never
Really?
told that story.
Honestly, I'd forgotten about it till just now.
Oh,
You guys are good. That's awesome.
So yeah.
what a good opener.
That
Yeah.
is.
That's a question you want to ask people. He's like, how long have you been married?
Yeah.
What? How long?
39.
This is a test.
39. It'll be 40 in October.
That's what I always wonder. How did people meet? How did your lives collide?
We were in high
It
school
was
together,
school.
small community, and I'll tell you too, music had a lot to do with it.
Oh,
because I
yes.
was a musician, and as it turns out, she was a major Tom Petty fan.
Oh,
If it had not, what if I'd have been like, what was it, Leonard Skinner or
Oh,
something?
you'd still been okay.
Would I have been okay? What about Donna Summer?
No, you'd have been out.
I would have been out
You'd have
because I
been-
like Donna Summer too.
You'd have a different last
There's a
name.
parallel universe out there.
Can you all hear that?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
all y'all.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I just hear the five of us, so.
Yeah.
Here, I feel like I'm ignoring you all.
I can hear some clapping when I heard that. But
Hey, it's Todd Belt. Todd Belt's here.
Yes.
There he is.
He did great today.
He had a massage today. How was that massage?
Wait
Oh,
a minute.
Two thumbs up.
Who's giving massages?
No, that's what he was telling me.
He had
I
to
need
drive
go-
through 400
We
miles
got-
of yard sale to get that massage
You didn't
today.
know we had massages behind here?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'd take the one back there.
Is Jeff doing them?
So Lawrence, Kentucky, grew up there, and I've read a few stories about you, Teresa, and growing up there. The Friday nights, the Pepsi Cola.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You really did your research.
Hey, I'm a stalker.
Thank you for
I'm a
that.
stalker from way back. Yeah, the Pepsi Cola, and
Yeah.
your dad would buy some Pabst Blue Ribbon. Can you go into that a
Oh,
little bit?
holy cow. Okay, so there was 9 of us, okay? And there was mom and dad. Dad did some gas company business. He checked wells and he checked the lines. He did something like that. But mommy was like the homemaker. So every Friday night, let's talk about Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday was soup, beans, taters, and cornbread.
Mhm.
And you'd think that I'd be completely foundered on all those, but I'm not. I could eat those
Right.
any time of the day. But of course we complained about it.
Oh, sure.
We complained about it, but I'd give anything for that.
Yeah.
And anyway, but on Friday nights, when we come home. Oh, there's mom now.
On for every Friday?
Every Friday, mom would get us our very own 16-ounce glass bottle of Pepsi. And she was more of a Pepsi girl than me. She made me the Pepsi girl. But we got our own 16-ounce bottle of that Pepsi, and we got a candy bar of our choice on Fridays. Never, sometimes on Saturdays, like if Dad was wanting another case of beer,
Right.
he would
What
throw
was-
that out there.
What was your choice of candy bar?
Oh, back then, gosh, thank you for that question because it made me think. I love those questions that make me think. I know, Three Musketeers was out there, but it was probably Snickers, probably.
I like
Hey.
Snickers.
Hey.
Solid.
And
Come
I
on.
didn't just eat it. Okay, it was you chew off the chocolate.
Is like corn on the
Yes,
cob.
yes.
The Snickers
You
corn on
have
the
to
cob.
make it last. I only got one once a week.
Wow.
You know, come
Method
on.
I've never heard.
Oh no, you make it last, and it's like a
Never even heard
who
of
can
that.
make your bottle of pop last the longest? Who can be the envy of all the kids
Yeah.
in the
Right.
house? So you got. I've still got more pop.
Corn on the cob Snickers bar.
Hey, try it.
I will. Yeah.
But anyway, it made it last longer.
Snickers is my favorite.
But
What's the town in Lawrence County?
It's Louisa. It's the county
Louisa?
seat, yeah.
Okay, so that's where you went,
to what?
Louisa.
To do
Every
what?
Friday night.
No, we went to Elmo and Mary's.
Okay.
And Martha. There's like country stores.
Okay.
When you live real far out.
Right.
And Elmo and Mary's was the closest one.
Right.
So, but it depends. It could have been Mary's at that time. But anyway, Mom would get that, and it would be waiting for us when we got
Okay.
off the bus.
Oh wow. Fridays
Yeah.
were exciting.
Fridays were, and it was like the night where you got to stay up past 9 o'clock. We had a 9 o'clock curfew
I do remember it.
Well, tell them why you went to bed so early.
because Dad wanted us to.
Well, but still, your school bus ride.
Oh, well, school bus, we were a couple hours, we had to, go into high school, we traded bus 3 times
Oh, wow.
to get to school
Yeah, it was an
from
endeavor.
Martha. Now, things are better now, they've made sure that kids don't get on the bus any earlier than 6 o'clock, but we got on the bus before 6 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah, and didn't come home until probably 15 after 4 because we caught the tail end of Mr. Cartoon.
Right.
But
Mr.
you don't know what
No,
Mr.
I do
Cartoon
not.
is, but somebody out there does.
Wow.
Mr.
So-
Cartoon?
Mr.
it
You know
was,
that Monty invented TV.
Oh, thank you for that.
I didn't invite no. I didn't invite nothing.
So, did y'all date through high school? I guess you said, or
We really didn't date through high school. We were just real good friends, but we didn't date.
right.
I mean, I was dirt poor, so I mean, I couldn't really afford to date. I didn't have a car, drive my mom's car,
Yeah.
and just I don't know. A lot of people, I guess, do date in high school, but I just didn't see the end game there. I didn't really see the point of it. We were just really good friends, but I wasn't dating.
But now, once he got out of high school,
What happened?
Yeah.
Well, man, you gotta.
yeah, when I was in the 12th grade is when you asked me to be your girlfriend.
Yeah, so it was a different story then. Okay.
Because he was out of school. I was
much
not
over.
out of school.
Yeah.
So did love or music happen first?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Good.
Whatever those two things
Yeah.
are,
What,
it's
well,
crazy things.
I wonder. I mean, because if I hadn't liked Tom Petty, he would not have been interested, or maybe I don't know.
That makes me sound very superficial.
Well,
Doesn't it?
that's a poor way to put it.
That is.
That is a poor way to put it, and I apologize.
It
for
greased
that.
the rails.
It
for our
did.
relationship.
It cleared the brush.
That's
didn't
a good way to
it
put it.
cleared,
There we go.
So that path was.
I got to go home with her this evening. So we gotta,
And the bed is very small.
we're going to have to sleep in separate
I know we're
beds.
going to sleep in separate beds
Yeah.
tonight.
Our room tonight is very small beds.
We try to get a king.
So y'all both were teachers, educators, right?
Yeah.
We're still teachers.
Still.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if.
Oh, we're still in.
Oh, we're
Okay.
in.
Now, I think that's a really important thing that most people probably know and they might not know, but I think it's an interesting part of y'all's story because, of course, I did my research, and you, David, seem to be very well honored as an educator. I think in 2010 you won the Kentucky Council of Social Studies Teacher of the Year.
Yeah, I did.
And,
did.
But I also read something that,
Absolutely.
Popularity contest.
And he deserves it. He really does.
I do remember social studies. I always liked social studies in schools, and if people like Monty would call it civics.
Yeah.
And
I like social studies too.
oh, okay. But you seem like every article I read or every video, you were a very personal teacher with your students, and you would, kind of like this podcast, try to tell your story and try to help your students through your story. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, first off, I wound up in the station in Lyfe I'm in because of a teacher, and I had a teacher in 7th and 8th grade take an interest in me, and I told you before, I came from a very poor family, and we struggled to get by, but I had this teacher who didn't really look at that and looked at me as a person and made me feel good as an individual and valued me for who I was, and so that meant so much to me. And he was my social studies teacher. And that really had a lot to do with my career path. I want to do that, and I admired him so much. I wanted to do the same thing for kids. So when I have kids in my classroom, these are little human beings. They're not a class of kids that I have to do whatever to. These are people, and I've got 25 different people in my room, 6 times a day.
Right.
So I get to know them as people. I try to treat them as people, and I know that. And the longer I've taught, I've seen this. I have them for a very short time. Then they go out in the world and they become parts of your community, and then you interact with them again as people. And so just to make that connection with them and know them as a young person and watch them grow and develop, and then still interact with them after they go out in the world, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And the longer I've taught, the more I've got to see it. And it's just wonderful. But everyone that's in my room is an individual, and they've got something to offer, and I try and find it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think we can all remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I see my teachers here, and it's
is that right?
And that's awesome because you get to kind of check in with them.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I have so many kids who will come, and I get to see them now. And sometimes, I'll be playing in bars and stuff, and I'll have a former student there, and they don't want me to see them with a beer in their hand. Like, they're just, oh my God, he can't see me. It's just so interesting to see how your former students interact with you as a person.
Yeah.
Well,
Are you drinking beer in front of your teacher right now?
I don't think so at this moment, but they know.
They know.
Well, you brew beer.
Well, you can brew it and not drink it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
How do you make sure it's good if you don't drink it?
My teachers tell me.
Oh, there you go. Wait, teachers drink?
They do at the Dam Brewhaus. Trivia's every Thursday night.
Yeah, definitely a lot of teachers hear that now.
But yeah, that's on the other side of kind of what you're saying. It is cool to see a teacher that inspired you. In fact, civics and government and social studies, those were teachers I connected with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's real world stuff for me.
Yeah.
My dad, when I grew up, my dad was a news junkie. Like, he'd get out in the morning and he would sit and watch all the news and stuff, and then like the evening news, and I would just sit there and watch it with him. So I was really in tune to world events and stuff all my whole life. So when I found out that's what these socials guys, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I was just drawn to them.
Right.
They were the most important part of school.
It's amazing that you can remember teachers that cared.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, no doubt about that.
And you can remember the teachers that you just knew as a kid that didn't, they might have cared, but that didn't care.
Oh,
But-
yeah,
And they're lasting memories in your mind because you spend, 12 years, 8 hours a day, and it's important. And I'm very thankful that you were that kind of teacher and you cared about the kids and shared your highs and lows in life and tried to help them.
Yeah, and that's one thing I would always do is I'd let them know, I came up hard. I didn't have running water in my house, until I was 13. And I know I've got students in my room that are coming from tough places, and it's just good to hear someone say that.
Oh,
to
yeah.
go, I'm
sure.
not the only one.
Yeah.
And everyone struggles and has a hard time. So I want to kick that wall down for them.
Yeah, and we try to do that on a podcast. It's like we've all been through struggles, and we always say everybody puts this perfect picture of life out there on social media, and it's not like that. We all go through struggle. We talk about a circle. You find a good circle around you, good friends, and they should support you and help you and clap. Monty always said, if your friends aren't clapping when you're doing well, they're probably not your friends.
Yeah.
And if they're not there when you're going through some bad times, they're probably not your friends either. You got to find a good circle. And it sounds like, I'm sure you were the same way. He had more articles.
Yeah,
it's
preschool
important.
gets overlooked a little bit.
It does. But very important to have great educators, and y'all were, obviously.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first hired in, there was just a salty old carpentry teacher there. His name was Jack Pelfrey, and Jack Pelfrey had been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And first couple of years, he's old school, and he would look at me, and I had long hair, and he's like, I don't know about you. And so one day he finally came up to me and said, now, Prince, when you first hired in here, he said, I didn't know what to think of you. But he said, I believe you're all right. But he said, the best thing you'll teach these kids, the most important thing you'll teach these kids is not your content. It's just to be a good, decent human being. That's the most important thing you'll teach these kids. And for 5 years, I didn't believe Jack Pelfrey. It's like, I got to teach my content. And they need to know the 3 branches of government. That's why we're here. But you know what? He was right. Jack Pelfrey was absolutely right.
Yeah.
I got to teach content. The state's going to make me do it, and I love it.
Right.
But to teach them to be good human beings, that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
That's most important.
Amen.
Amen. I mean,
No doubt.
We need that right now.
Jack Pelfrey, that's for you, buddy, where we are.
yeah, absolutely, because we need better people in the world, always.
Yeah, always.
And the Eastern Kentucky culture, y'all can speak on this, you already spoke on this, is a different culture compared to where we live. Me and my fiance, we traveled through there to West Virginia, and I guess the Eastern Kentucky culture and West Virginia culture is similar.
Yeah, really, you could make just a state out of Eastern
Right.
Kentucky and Western West Virginia. We're kind of our own little
It's a different
area
world.
there. It is.
And you said you went on 3 buses, to get to school, and
And was happy to do so
yeah,
because you got to go somewhere.
right, right.
You got to see your friends and what we did on those buses, of course, you're going to flick somebody's ear or whatever
Yeah.
like that. But we sang, not as much in the morning as we did in the afternoon.
Right.
But
Well, if you're on there at 5 something, I understand.
Yeah, no one's
Yeah.
singing at 5.
we're
Yeah.
trying to keep the curl in our hair.
There you go.
It's really true.
I read some things online there. Do y'all have anything?
No, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Monty.
no, Crown Vic King.
Yeah, he's the crown. That's what I call him, Crown Victoria King.
I don't think I think I met the king of the Crown Vics yesterday.
Yeah.
We played a show in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, and when we first showed up at the gig, this Kentucky State policeman comes up to me. He's like, "Man, I gotta get my picture with you. We gotta talk Crown Vics." And I mean, this guy was in deep. Like, he told me stuff about Crown Vics I had no idea about. He said he had trained on them when he came up to the academy, and he knew everything there was to know about Crown Victorias. So we sat and talked, and man, he was just a wealth of knowledge. But I mean, I am a proponent of the Ford Crown Victoria for sure.
Anybody from Kentucky remembers the state trooper Crown Vic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's
hit the
right.
brakes.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, that goes along with your song, McGoffin County Cadillac.
Yeah.
And I love that song. Like, I started listening to you. I'd heard you here before.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to you as soon as you came out on iTunes. And I had to play that for my wife. I'm like, Matt, you'll love this song.
You know, that
You'll love
really
it."
tickles me because you don't really know where McGoffin County is.
Right,
And you don't really know, because that's a very real thing.
right.
In our part of the state, McGoffin County, and that's what everyone calls them.
Oh, really?
McGoffin County, the people there are so famous for driving them.
Right.
That, but to be over here where you don't really know that and you still like the song, that's cool. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It's comical in some ways when, it's just how you go about singing it. So I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a good song.
They are
Thank you,
tanks.
guys. Oh, they are. I mean, they're a great car. The original one that I drove for forever and pretty much was what I was writing the song is the one I had. It was an 04, and it died on me it had about 380,000 miles on it.
Ooh.
And it still runs, but I lost a cylinder, and it just wasn't worth pulling the motor for anymore.
Right.
But 380 out of a Vic. I bought it, it had 100,000 miles on it, and so I got that much more out of it.
Think
Wow.
Wow.
Think of the stories that went with those miles.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's seen a lot.
Let's see. I got a few more questions. A few articles I read. I don't know if they were life lessons for you or lessons for everyone. I don't know if the article writer wrote them, but it don't matter where you start, and you better treat everyone right, and you better know your beans from your apple butter. Do you remember any of that?
I have no idea what
No.
that is.
Okay.
Well, actually, I do. I know who wrote that, and I know what he's talking about. That's Adam Jordan, I think, that wrote that content.
It was a laid-back country teacher.
Yeah, he was first off, he's a PhD, and he's from northern Georgia, so he is just as hick as we are.
Mhm.
But he's an educator, and now he trains people to be educators. And he contacted me because he's really taken by my story. He thought that was interesting, and he loves music too. So he spent a lot of time. He came to a lot of shows, and we got to know each other and become friends. But he's constantly trying to write articles that show teachers in a different light than what most people see them, show teachers that they're human beings and show teachers' struggles, and to try to write articles that try to encourage more people to come into education.
Right.
So that's where he was coming from. And he was just talking about, and at the time in the article I was saying, when you go in to be a teacher, you got to know your content, and you do.
Mm-hmm.
You better know what you're talking about, because you got a bunch of kids, and probably about a third of them is way smarter than you are.
And they pick up on something.
Oh, they do.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, that's no. I learned early on that you're not the smartest person in the room. You got kids in there way smarter than you
Right.
are.
And you
you're
wouldn't
just-
believe it, but in preschool,
Yeah,
they already know that
Really?
they're smarter than you. Yes, absolutely.
Kids definitely pick up when you're, I'm going to say, a bullshitting.
Oh, they know.
Oh.
They know immediately.
And they know when you love them.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, they know.
Yeah.
So go in loving them.
And I was making the point that know the content as best you can. I mean, no one's going to be a machine to know it all, but you got to know what you're talking about, because
Right.
they do see right through that. And then just love your kids, and just like we said earlier, treat them
Such
like
an
humans.
amazing. I guess we had teachers like that for sure, but
Yeah.
it's such a refreshing thing to see somebody be so open about it. That's
And you'd be surprised too how much your teachers probably talked about you as people. I mean, like in a current year, I can tell you the top 3 or 4 students in her class and what they're doing. I know them by name because she talks about them all the time. And something will happen, and she'll say, "Oh, blah 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 does that," or whatever. And these kids are on her mind all the time. I mean, they're for 8 months out of the year. That's our life.
Yeah.
Working with those kids.
My grandmother was a teacher, a 4th grade teacher for 30 years, and I don't ever remember her not recognizing a student. Don't matter who it was in the community that she had over 30 years. She knew
wow.
them, their kids, and she had a lot of their kids,
Yeah,
and their
I've done that.
grandkids by the end of it, some of them. And she knew, but she was about like y'all, she cared about
Yeah.
everyone in that room. And
I'm getting to the point now where I forget some of the names, but I know their faces.
right.
And even though she teaches preschool, you've had kids of your kids now, haven't you?
Yes.
Which is a pretty good trick for preschool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
My kindergarten teacher was my favorite teacher
Aw.
to this day, and
mean,
every now
you
and
took
then,
naps all
every
the
now and
time.
then
Why
we
wouldn't they
bump
be?
into her in town like once every 8 years, and it's always nice.
Right.
She remembers.
You had naps, right?
Not in kindergarten, dude.
No.
What?
I had naps at Kitty Corner. Kitty
Yeah,
Corner.
yeah.
I remember Kitty
You had
Corner.
naps.
Yeah, we had naps in kindergarten.
Yeah.
They still
Yeah,
do.
No, we
when I
just
was growing
ran.
up, we had. Well, we didn't. I went
Peanut
to
butter and
kindergarten.
crackers, right?
I went to kindergarten in summer school back in the day.
Yeah,
Wow.
Like that was kindergarten, and then you're thrown into first grade.
the bus ride with a layover.
Well, not so much for kindergarten through 8th grade. It was just 2.
Yeah. Okay.
But going on to high school, it was 3.
Bus ride layover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, going in Eastern Kentucky, where y'all grew up, what was your you're going to high school, you were not dating, but y'all knew each other. What were your musical influences when y'all were in high school?
Besides Tom Petty.
Yeah, we
Besides
know
Tom
Tom
Petty.
Petty.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Go ahead.
Well, it was, which I had AM radio, but it was like our county's, our city's radio station, and it was an AM radio station, and they played like the hits of the day, pop stuff,
Yeah.
Donna Summer. But then, we got some FM stations, okay, and so it was Key. Key was like what I listened to, and it was, Pat Benatar. I wanted to be a new wave girl. That's what I wrote in my friend Matt's memories book, and I was going, who was I? what was that? The new wave girl. But anyway, like I listened to Pat Benatar. I listened to who else?
Bee Gees,
Greg
bro.
Kim. Yeah, Bee Gees. Stuff like that.
What about you, David?
Boston.
Boston,
Sorry.
yeah.
Elton John. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going through albums now. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
My dad and mom were bluegrassers, so I was raised up on Stanley Brothers, and that's where I was coming from.
Let me ask you this.
All right.
Ralph Stanley or Bill Monroe? That's a big.
Well, what do you want to know?
I don't know. That's always.
specific. Brother.
It's two different things.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know,
I think
it is.
too.
Be specific.
You know,
Well, who do you like, David?
I probably listen to more Stanley Brothers.
Yeah, me too.
But Bill, you got
Bill's Bill.
Bill started it. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Bill made it all happen.
Yeah.
And from everything you read and try and find out about Bill, he was a hard nut, man.
Oh, I've
Like,
read.
working for Bill would have been a rough road.
I've
Yeah,
read.
we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast.
I've read a few books about Bill Monroe, and he never, like at a show, or you never saw him sitting down, and you never saw him leaning up, and he could pick his whole band up on his back, and he made a point to that because he was Bill Monroe.
That's
He's like,
right.
I'm carrying the band,
Yeah. And
he would go off on the stage and break up fights. They said to see people flying. He was a stout man.
Oh yeah, and I guess a big time baseball player.
Yeah.
Like they'd roll into town and they would play the teams in the town, man. I mean,
Wow.
it was
That's
just
cool.
crazy. He was just amazing. And I think Ralph and Carter laying drunk a lot, man, probably chasing women. But
Two different
it was.
personalities because
Equally
Bill
important.
didn't like drinking.
Oh no, not at all.
Bill
He had a
didn't like
job to do.
drinking or any of that. So
I mean, he's the father of bluegrass.
Yeah.
You can't be slacking on a job.
no,
Stanley brother, I mean, poor Carter drunk himself to death. And,
Yeah.
And, I don't know how much Ralph was drinking. Evidently not as much as Carter, or he had a better liver.
right.
But just their music, my dad probably listened to more, but I hold them both in very high esteem. And Flat and Scruggs. I mean,
Yeah.
those were the
Oh.
bands for me.
Yeah.
But then we moved from the area I was at into closer to town. And I got a neighbor who had come from Columbus, Ohio, my dear friend Jeff Rogers. And, he had some AC/DC records. I never heard that stuff before. And didn't take long. I was like, hey, this is cool. And I'd always been a Johnny Cash fan because I like Johnny Cash. There's some electric guitar there, so
Right.
it was easy to transition over. And all of a sudden, I'm an English rock guy. I love Zeppelin, I love Mott the Hoople. That's what I
It
was
just
listening
opened the
That's
door.
awesome.
Oh yeah. So I wouldn't listen to the stuff the radio stations she mentioned there. I wouldn't have listened to them if you paid me.
Right.
I was a hard rock guy at that point.
And same thing. Like there was a radio station that played.
Rock 105.
Yeah, it was 105, and I would listen to that, and it would be just like, what's happening here? Where's the? All I hear is.
All you hear is rock.
rock. And when we got together, he introduced me to all this stuff. So I listened to all this stuff, and I was like, oh, I get it. I get
Right.
it now. This is cool and enjoyable, and it has a different thing than what pop does. Pop is, I hate to call it pop because there's some good,
Yeah.
it's
Just
a
saying
good
pop
thing.
doesn't mean it's bad.
I just don't want people to think that that's a negative. But one was sing-songy and made you feel something and made you want to dance. This, I don't know. This made you feel something else.
Got deeper. Yeah.
It made you think, and
Made you wanna
if you could
worship
understand
Satan.
the words, what was that? And if you
Cut
could
that out.
understand the words, you go, oh crap, what is that?
Right.
What's he talking about?
Yeah.
And then he has the history behind it. And I'm telling you, you can, and you know it already, but I could sit and listen to him talk all the time, just like
Well, you
just
have
like his
to.
student. He's just so knowledgeable about all kinds of things.
Well,
And
I had the Encyclopedia of Rock, which was a magazine, or it was this little thick thing, like an encyclopedia of every rock band.
Oh, that's
And it
cool.
was a big deal in the late 70s because there's no internet.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I read that thing from cover to cover. And I mean, I could tell you who was in Spooky Tooth, and I knew who was in every band and how they dropped out and got into this band. And that's, instead of studying stuff for school, that's what I was reading.
Right.
That's awesome.
So I had a pretty good knowledge of a lot of that stuff.
But you're a fantastic guitar player.
Well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and you definitely definitely can tell the influence of the late '70s rock.
Yeah, that's
Just gritty.
That's awesome.
well, that's where it's at. I mean, Angus Young and Jimmy Page, Joe Perry, those are my guys. Johnny Winter. That's how I play.
Love it.
I mean,
Oh yeah, that was a great era of music.
Oh, I think it was. I absolutely love it. The guitars were up in the mix, and everyone was glad.
Yeah, that I always ask people most of the time on the podcast who was the greatest American band, and everybody's so subjective. It's not. There's no wrong or right answer.
Yeah.
But
American.
Yeah.
and we're going American. Who
That's
is
what makes it tough.
of all time?
Greatest American band of all time.
Because it's got to be American. That's what makes it really
I'd have two
tough.
answers I would narrow it down to. And one would be Aerosmith.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I'm
like
talking
that
about
answer.
junkie Aerosmith. I don't
bet.
mean after they got Queen and made hits.
Right.
And let me just clarify that. I don't blame them because singing popular songs
Makes
is a lot
money.
better than painting houses for a living. I get that.
Oh, yeah.
I would have done it too.
Yeah.
But up to about Draw the Line when they're just playing hard rock, they're great. That may be the greatest American rock band. But then to look at a period of time and the body of work, it's hard to argue against Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers because they had
Oh.
a stellar
All right.
career.
Smart man.
A stellar career.
Smart man.
See, he'll say the Eagles.
Who? I say the Eagles because my fiance gets mad at me when I don't say the Eagles.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer. Eagles because it's
Did you do your research?
I watched the documentary. I have a few. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. Tom Petty, yes. Aerosmith.
Oh, man.
The Eagles had a lot of influence. I don't think they changed the world. I think CCR was in there before the Eagles, and the great transitional time.
Well-
I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. It's always a fun question to ask because
What do you say?
That my first thought went to Tom, just because it's all kinds of stuff. That's a band that has the writing. They've got the demeanor. They're just fun. These are fun guys and funny. And they got the musicians. The musicians can rock it out when they want to, and they can hold back when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And you got to know when to hold back, and you got to know when to push forward.
Right.
And they've got that good. But then I thought of this other band, and Fanny. Have you ever seen Fanny?
Fanny.
I don't know, Fanny.
Look them up. I mean, they're from what? What era are they from? Like the 60s,
It's
70s?
probably early 70s.
And it's an all-girl band, and doggone it, if they don't rock out. You talk Led Zeppelin stuff. I'm telling you,
wow.
Look them up on YouTube. They're getting
There's a documentary out.
there's a
about them.
documentary right now out about them, and just how
It's before Hard or any of those people. They kind of kicked the doors down. I think.
they
that's
absolutely
cool.
did.
Rock band.
But
I
they were women at the time, like
Yeah.
and women, women rockers it was like cool to see it that
Yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
But
I do love a good documentary. If everybody's
It's a documentary.
They
yeah.
have a great story to tell.
I heard y'all on one of your Sunday morning
Oh,
live. I love those.
Thank you for watching.
And we were
We
actually,
love them too.
Oh, they're so fun to listen to. And we were camping one morning. Sunday, woke up and I got on Facebook, and there y'all were, and y'all got a big. I don't know if it was questions from the listeners about the Beatles, and you've watched the.
Yeah.
You seem to know a lot about the Beatles, and they changed the world, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they just changed how music was played and probably listened to.
Right.
And this is opinion, so I'll lay it out there. I see people who go, well, the Beatles are overrated, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about if you think that. I mean, the way they changed how rock musicians write songs, how harmonies are written, how you write a perfect 2.5-minute song. They're the best at that. They kind of invented what they did. But then as they progress and they go to the Maharishi and they get more drug influence and they put out a couple records that are just psychedelic and heavy.
I think Jess told me that Bob Dylan introduced them to
Yeah, Bob turned them on to
marijuana,
pot, yeah.
and everything changed after
so
that.
that's another good thing Bob Dylan did. So I mean, it's just people who write the Beatles off. I kind of have to look at them a little different. Like, you're welcome to that opinion, but you just don't know what you're talking. It's like saying Led Zeppelin's no good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Do you think the Beatles probably changed the world in that time period more than any?
Absolutely.
Maybe more than any
I think
band
so.
in history.
And for good and bad, because of all the backlash, because a lot of people really hated them. And then when Lennon made that statement about being bigger than Jesus, I mean, he was just saying they were more popular, not better or worse. It's
Right.
just they are, and they probably were at the time.
Yeah.
And man, you saw what they did.
Yeah.
So they caused ripples, both negative and positive, that probably no one has done before or after.
No. Elvis. You could throw Elvis in that category of just changing culture and changing. But the Beatles and Elvis, I think.
You saw the Elvis movie that was out.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Wasn't that great?
It was.
It was just a great movie.
It was. You couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all got any musical questions?
I do, just as a newbie. So I've noticed. See, I'm involved with the Brewhaus, so I've found out about you guys from the Brewhaus, and so it took me a long time to figure out Laid Back and Luna and Mountain Jets, because I usually work a swing shift, so I've missed like half the shows, and so I'm never getting good context. So I'm like a newbie to the personas. What was like motivation for the personas?
Of Laid Back?
Yeah, and
Honey.
Honey, yeah.
Start with Laid Back.
Because I think of like White Stripes when I listen to it. It's
Yeah.
like it's almost like a good old-fashioned Kentucky,
It is, but we didn't really set out to say, let's do what Jack White did.
Yeah.
I know who Jack is, and it was brilliant what they did, but my band's not really based on, Laid Back's not based on that at all.
Right.
That just, first off, Laid Back came from a photograph. We just took a picture of me that you've probably seen the picture of that's on shirts and stuff, and it was just a goofy looking picture. And it just evolved into a character in my mind, and that evolved into, we'll put it on a shirt. We started selling the shirts, so we said, oh my gosh, let's create a character, let's make a CD, and we'll have a band going with Laid Back.
Yeah.
So we get all this started. She comes up with the whole Honey bit on her own, which is just genius.
But he named me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
said your name should be Honey. And so I just think, I'm really into bands like Southern Culture on the Skids. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. And just Web Wilder, just bands that are kind of fun. They don't take things too serious, but yet they're good musicians and they can play their instrument. Because I think it's one thing to be goofy, but you got to be able to back it up if you're going to play, and those bands do that. So that's kind of what we want to do. So, we got this band going for several years, and we were backed up by two of my dearest friends, Kenny Miles and Hayden Miles, and they have a band called Wayne Graham. They were a bass
Check
player
them
and
out.
drummer. But their band has become uber successful. In fact, they offered probably 3 or 4 shows for Tyler Childers on this last tour, and they're going to play Red Rocks with Tyler this fall.
Mm-hmm.
So they've just become so successful, I can't get them. So during the pandemic, when we have nothing to do, I got a drum set in the basement, so she just got behind the drums, because normally she played acoustic guitar. So she starts playing drums, and I start playing. I was like, you're a pretty good drummer. She just had it. And so I devised a way to try to make a bass signal so we didn't have such an empty sound. So when I play my guitar, it makes both a bass and a guitar sound. And we just started playing in this 2-piece, and it's just so much easier. We get in the car, we don't have to try and get a band together.
It's awesome.
And that's kind of what led to what we got now. It's a hillbilly White Stripes, really.
Sounds so good. Yeah, like the last week or two ago, whenever you were walking through the crowd, the video on Facebook, sounds so good, and it's just so fun to watch. I mean, you're obviously having fun.
Having a blast.
Yeah.
Just having a blast.
Why do it?
Yeah.
If you're not having fun.
And I've always, the rights of songs, all y'all songs are originals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all I told Cole, and we've talked about it on the podcast. I don't have that brain or mind. It's just not been unlocked yet. And Tony Logue, he writes amazing songs.
Yeah.
And
No doubt about it.
Hollerhead, amazing songs. There's so many good songwriters in Kentucky. And that all are everywhere, but the ones I know, I'm like, how did that come out of that brain? And yours are the same way. It's like, where did that come from? And is it something? It's something I have not experienced, to sit down and write a song or something like that y'all write, like Tony, you and Hollerhead and so many others, that they're just like, that came out of your brain. That onto paper, and then made music, and it sounds so awesome. Have you always wrote songs, or
I have, yeah. Remember, the first instrument I had was a little toy banjo. It was plastic. I was probably 4 or 5. And I wrote a song on it, and I just remember I've just always written little melodies and songs. Most of them are horrible, and Tony or anybody will tell you that. You write one good song and 10 bad ones, and you throw a lot of ideas away before they even become songs.
Right.
But
Tony's out there nodding, I think.
yeah, you do. Not everything's gold, but it's just something I've always done. And really, once you get up, to age of, you just observe the world and you just report back on what you saw. That's really what we're doing. Here's what I saw, and sometimes maybe you just embellish on it. Here's I saw this, but what if this would have happened? And that's how you write the song, to get a point across. And that's how I write. Now she may write completely different from that.
Well,
yours is more internal.
Mine's more internal. I'm trying to get
feel
through.
that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through something, or I'm trying to tell on somebody, or it's got to come from me first. And I always say, like, I'm haunted by something. Like, there's just, like, either the saying or just this situation, and it's just like, man, it's just not going to go away. Or like this one time, one of our good friends, Sid Diamond, passed away, and I was just like, it's killing me. He's just such a character. And just to help, I had to write a song about him, just to help with that pain.
Right.
And it worked. I mean, it's not like it goes away. It's just, and I think this is true for any kind of outlet that you're doing to help you get through something, whether it's I'm going to crochet this blanket, or I'm going to paint this picture, I'm going to clean this house, or whatever you're doing. It helps you to think about things and put it in a different place in your brain. It's still there, it's still in your brain. But I don't know, there's something about putting it in that special file that helps you go on with the rest of your life.
Well, if you're writing a song, it also kind of memorializes it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's always there. That's the thing about music's a really weird thing to me, is because
Thank you, sir.
it touches so many people. The great communicator, And I asked Tony one time. I said, "Is this you?" He said, "Well, I'm in every song. There's a little bit of me in every song." And
You look thirsty.
And I think music is one of those things in the universe that is just something that's almost not explainable when it's done right.
It is. And the first time we played here, and we met Tony, and I think Tony brought some PA, and he played with us. Mm-hmm. And so we heard like 3 of Tony's songs, like, oh, yeah. That guy can write songs.
It's an energy, like when Hollerhead plays in winter in the Brewhaus.
Yeah.
It's like we turn the lights down, and their song is like a different energy. And I don't know, music's always been a weird thing to me because I've never wrote music, couldn't play anything, but I feel it. It changes me.
Well, thank goodness, because we need you. We love you listening.
That's why people need to make their music.
Yes.
That's because not everybody can say what they need to say, and some people can't play what they want to play. But if you've got it in you and you're compelled to write it, sing it, paint it, whatever, I always say somebody else is supposed to hear that.
Yes.
And somebody may be supposed to hear it to help them, maybe
Absolutely.
not just to have a good time that night, but to change their life.
Absolutely. We always say that. We tell stories on here. We bring guests on, and they tell their stories, and we always say that stories change people, help people, and you might help somebody from something you share that you went through 3 years ago or you're going through now. It's like, this is how I got through it. And everybody's been either really happy or really depressed or something, and the right song changes the mood.
And we hope that's what people get from the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Something that either changes you or helps you in some small way,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's see what else we got. I did a lot of research.
I got a random question. Is
Yeah.
cold ethyl, is that a chemistry class joke? Is that ethyl, like...
Yeah, where'd you get that name?
It's an Alice Cooper song.
Okay. So I'm 30. My bad.
No.
I didn't know it was an Alice Cooper song.
It's an Alice
I
Cooper
didn't know.
song. You didn't know that?
No, I had no idea.
I see it spelt on the paper. It looks like it's a.
Cold Ethel's about a guy who is dating or wants to date a lady named Ethel. And Ethel may probably not be alive.
Oh, wow. Cold
That's why
Ethel.
she's cold.
Oh.
Yeah.
wow.
You all know that?
Is that really true?
I wouldn't make that up.
Goodness.
Alice Cooper
What have
sang
I-
a song like
So
that.
anyways.
I
Just
can
because
believe-
he sang about it, that, you know.
Monty's usually the one who brings up controversial things.
So that's what Cold Ethel's about. You didn't know
Oh
that?
my God!
Wow.
Here, first of all, I didn't know it was Alice Cooper's song.
I was dying to ask that.
Yeah, that's what it was
And
about.
who drew it? Somebody who drew the
The logo.
the logo.
Jeff Rogers did that. He was
well,
the bass player.
the Y didn't
It
have
has
like
a
a
little-
devil's tail kind of thing.
That was, see, now there you go. That had nothing to do with the devil. It just had a little arrow on the end of it.
But I just really thought that was a devil's tail.
You probably
when I
believed
saw
in
it.
Judas Priest stuff too, didn't you?
I didn't know who Judas Priest was.
I saw him in concert.
I did too.
Yeah.
I saw Priest and Maiden.
Well,
Back when it meant something.
you probably saw them too, didn't you? Because they were at Louder and Live.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. I've seen Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to show off, but I saw them in '82 and they were on.
I did
it was
not. I did
on.
not.
The
Well-
loudest band I ever saw.
Now, they were pretty old by the time I saw
Yeah,
them.
I guess so.
So,
Still good though.
I mean, yeah, but you could tell they were getting up in age and just not quite the rockers they used to be.
They were on when I saw them.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of. I'm sure y'all have a bunch of stories. Y'all want to share any stories? But one story I want to hear about is I want to hear about Ryman and what it was like to play Ryman, because I get goosebumps when I walked in there. But Red Rocks is a cathedral now,
It is.
and I've never been there, and I want to know what it was like to walk on that stage at Red Rocks and look at it with. I'm sure it was sold out.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure y'all played it at some amazing places, but I want to know about the Ryman and Red Rocks.
How many, y'all know how many seats at Red Rocks?
It's 10,000.
10.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And there are people like
They're straight up and down.
it's
too.
straight up
Yeah.
and down.
It's a
Like the
wall.
pictures does not do Red Rocks justice. You have to see it once in your life.
Well, I'm sure it's even different from the stage.
But
you know,
Yeah,
can
it
go.
is.
You can go like visit, like when there's not a concert going on. You
Right.
can roam around.
Right.
You know, stand right there on the stage. You know.
Yeah, when you're standing on stage, it's just a wall of people right in your
Yeah.
face. Well, tell them
I-
about Red Rocks, and I'll tell them about
Well,
Ryman.
phew, Lord have mercy.
Luna and the
Okay.
Mountain Jets.
I
were at
know.
Red
Yes,
Rocks,
it was
right?
Luna and the Mountain Jets, and it was my full band,
Mhm.
which is me and David and
Kenny and Hayden.
Kenny and Hayden.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
Kenny and Hayden Miles of Wayne Graham, and you know, gosh. So I'll tell you how it came about. I was on a like an iVisit kind of meeting, and it was something about the legislature and how things were going for teachers, and I was just mad, and
Right.
and we were having this conversation on here, and I was just like, you know, but what can I do? I want to make sure that I understand, you know, what this bill is and what
Yeah.
all this stuff, you know, because you got to understand things so you can talk about them. And so while this thing is going on, David gets a phone call, and it's Tyler's manager. Well, I'm still fuming.
Right.
I'm in the kitchen at the kitchen table fuming, and he's got this phone call, and it's Tyler's manager, and he's like, what's Luna and the Mountain Jets doing September 28th? And I don't know how you answered that, but it's like, well, you know, we want Luna and the Mountain Jets to open for Tyler
Right.
at Red Rocks. And so he knows this
And
information.
he's not like
He's
spreading
trying
it.
to figure out how to tell me.
He's like throwing stuff in the kitchen just to see how the
here-
temperature is in there.
So tell him your part, like how you're trying to
Well,
tell.
I'd first written it on a card, and the front side said the date, I think. And you flip it over, and it says Red Rocks or something. Is that what it was?
I just remember you showed me that later.
Yeah.
And I just remember Red Rocks. That's
But
all
I just remember, I was just real nonchalant. I just said the date and said that I said a bunch of stuff, said to him, we're going to open for Tyler Red Rocks, and just kind of kept talking.
But I mean, this was after like my meeting's done.
Yeah.
I think we're unloading the car.
I don't know what we're doing. But.
Or loading it, but we're out there by the car, and he's just talking, and I'm like, what?
By the way,
what'd you say?
By the way, we need gas, and you're opening for
Yeah.
Tyler Childress at Red Rock.
I was like,
Yeah, she freaked out a little bit.
I bet.
Duh. Well, first of all, you know it's not a lie because it came from Tyler, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like Tyler always does these things, these little sneaky things that are so sweet. Just like when he played that show and had his grandfather's friend
I saw
come
that
up on
down in
I
Johnson
mean,
City.
we knew nothing about that,
Right.
you know, and it's something that's on his heart to do, and by golly, he just does it, and I'm just honored to be on his mind, you know, to do that. I've always loved Tyler. He's been a sweet little boy. I always think of him as this little ninth grader that kind of liked one of my songs. But where was I getting with this? But yeah, it was just a thrill just to know that was going to happen. Now, before that, the first time that Tyler played the Ryman stage, it was all a big secret, you know. So it wasn't a secret that he was playing, but the big secret was
That I was going to play.
Oh, I didn't know. I read the article
Yeah.
about.
The way it worked, and I think, is this one of them where he called like at 2 in the morning? Because
He
Tyler would call me
does
at 2 in the
that
morning all the
sometimes.
time. He would just get something on his mind. And so he'd call me at 2 in the morning, and I'd get on the phone. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm sleeping. You know, I got to teach tomorrow. And he's like, well, man, I said, I want you to come, and I want you to do the first song when I play the Ryman. And, you know, Tyler's not a household name at this point. But he had some way got himself booked on the Ryman. Like, what are you talking about? He said, well, before I come out, I want you to come out and do Party Line and sing the first song. Like, this is great, Tyler. I'll do it, you know. But do they know I'm coming? Hey, it'll be fine, you know. So we go down there and we're setting our stuff up, and they're setting up, and they still don't know I'm going to do it. Like nobody at the Ryman knows this is going to happen.
Wow.
The stage techs don't really know, and so I'm setting an amplifier up, and they mic it up and everything, and I had a phone that I use on this bit, so they mic the phone up and get it going. But still, nobody really knows. And so when the curtain goes up, ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Childers. It's me.
Oh wow!
So, you know, I don't know if the people.
What were the faces you got back at you?
Well, you know, just the crowd just hooping and hollering.
Yeah,
because
they're
Tyler's
hooping
coming
and
out.
hollering, yeah.
And so when I go out there, I see some of them looking confused, and some of them don't care. They're in.
Yeah.
So I do my little song.
most of the people are our friends that's
Yeah,
out there in the
well, there's a lot.
audience.
That's
You know,
true.
they know
That's
who
true.
we are.
Yeah.
But
Or, well,
a lot of people know who it
you
was.
know,
But
so
I do
like-
my little song. And first off, I ain't got no business at the Ryman. I mean, I've heard me sing it. I know what I sound like. You know, I don't deserve to be there, and I truly believe that. But Tyler said, "Do you want to do it?" And I'm not going to say no.
No.
So, you know, away I go. So I'm playing the Ryman, and I'm like, they're like, man, this is awesome. I'm here at the Ryman. You know, I saw Jimmy Dickens here, and now I'm up here picking.
Right.
It was just
You bet.
insane. And I did my little thing, but probably the greatest thing about that night is Tyler's first time in, and maybe by third song, and this is legendary in the Tyler crowd. They know this. Everything just stops, and he gets a standing ovation
Oh.
after about 3 songs.
Oh yes,
And
yes,
every
yes.
hair in my body stood up, and I think
Mhm.
everybody in the room felt it. And I've never seen anything like that happen before or since. It's
Really?
Just, everybody just freaked out about 10, 15 minutes into his show and just had to give him a standing ovation.
Really?
It was the
Yeah,
craziest thing
it
ever.
was-
And we all just kind of went,
Yeah.
this is where he needs to be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it didn't take long. But, man, it was the right place at the right time.
Well,
Yeah,
you say
that
you
was
don't
really
deserve
cool.
to be there, but I think the Ryman kind of summons who needs to be there, and
Well, they didn't know I was coming.
the Ryman did though.
Well,
The building.
Well, you know, I'll take it, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it. But honestly, I shouldn't be there. But it was fun.
That was amazing. You played the Red Rocks and Ryman, and this.
Well,
It sounds pretty good when you say it like that.
And see that then there was the next time that Tyler played the Ryman.
Yeah,
well,
she got to go.
this time, you know, and I think they knew I was coming, and I wasn't first. But a few songs in, I'm coming up on stage,
Right.
and we're doing my song, and that's that thing you said.
Oh, I listened to that today.
Oh my God! And I think I have sang. I've sang all my life, but I think I was the most nervous that night.
Well, that's
Singing.
more after he had already got established,
Yeah,
right?
he was
Yeah.
rolling
Oh
at that
yes.
point.
So
yes.
I mean,
yes.
that's understandable.
Oh my gosh.
Marty Stewart was there that night.
Oh my God.
Oh, Uncle Marty.
Yeah, it was great.
It was fun. Oh, tell them about who we visited. The
Jack
night.
White.
Oh,
I'll tell you the Jack White
here.
story.
Let me tell you.
We want to hear
saying
stories.
Jack White's name and the White Stripes and being affiliated with Luna and the Mountain Jets or
I
laid
didn't know I
back
stepped
in
in
honey.
something there.
Well, let me tell you, I just hope he doesn't remember this. Okay, I met him that night. Like I think it was the night after. It was the second night of the Ryman. He had like a 2-night.
He was kind of
to not
courting
run.
Tyler a little bit, trying to get him on his label
Yeah.
at that point.
Right.
Well, let's go back about 2 years. Okay, you know about the Kentucky Headhunters?
Yes. Well, me and Monty know.
Okay.
You
yes.
know.
Well, you need
No,
to
he
get to
doesn't
know
know.
them.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool band out of Kentucky. Great guys. Well, you know, we'll go and watch them every now and then. We'll get to be backstage and hang out and stuff like that. Well, I went by myself. David had something to do, and I went by myself. And, I went with Adam Chafin, who's another Eastern Kentucky feller that's doing real well. Him and his wife, Brett Taylor, they're doing great. But anyway, so I'm there that night.
It's an album release party.
It's their album,
Nashville.
yeah. And so I'm there that night, and I'm just hanging out and stuff. But I didn't go backstage. It just felt awkward and weird. So I didn't go backstage. Well, Luna and the Mountain Jets opened up for the Kentucky Headhunters after that. And if you know Richard Young, you know he's always telling big tales, and most of them are true. But anyway, he was like, yeah, that show was pretty good. Yeah, Jack White was there. And I was like, what? Yeah, Jack White was back there, and he was just talking and looking at guitars and stuff. And I'm going, I mean, I love Jack. I love the White Stripes.
She loves Jack White.
Oh my God!
Love.
It was like it was a missed opportunity to meet him. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's fast forward to the Ryman. So there's Jack White. He's standing over there. You know, actually, I think it was Tyler or Sonora one was like, Teresa, Jack White's here. I was like, where? I mean, here I go, because I'm going, I'm not going to let this opportunity to meet Jack White pass me by again.
Not again.
Not again. So who's sound checking? What's her name? Margot Price.
Margot Price.
Oh,
She's
wow.
sound checking.
I love her.
Sounding great. But he's up there in the nosebleed seats and walking around. I spot him. Like, here's my opportunity. So he comes walking this way, and Tyler and Snora and David's there, and they know I'm just freaking out. And poor Jack White comes up, and before I say anything, I grab his hand, like this, grabbing his hand, making sure that I get to shake his hand.
You're not going
and
anywhere.
I don't even know what I said to him. Do you know what I said to him?
Jumbled words.
But he looked so scared. He was so scared, but he was so happy to see Tyler there standing beside. But I was just like, fangirling, and oh gosh. And then after it was all over with, I was going, what did I just do? What was that? Who was I just then?
I think you got a restraining order.
PPO.
And,
You met him, though.
I did meet him, and Tyler had a meeting with him the next morning, and Tyler took a couple of my CDs and it's said that he's supposed to listen to him, but I know they went right in the trash can.
No,
Because they're like,
That's that stalker girl.
it's just like, who was that girl? That was her? But anyway,
That was your finest
I
hour.
hope that
That
he
was
does
your
not
finest.
remember our first meeting, because maybe I'll meet him again.
Oh, let's hope so. That was great.
You can bet. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what would happen, honestly.
Have you ever been starstruck,
Oh,
David?
yeah, absolutely. Well, growing up, one of my major bands that I loved was the Georgia Satellites.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Country guys, AC/DC sounding guitars, hillbilly accent. I mean, it's everything I loved. Really played a lot like their lead guitar player, Rick Richards. I mean, he was just my guy, and pretty much that's who I wanted to be for a long time. Well, they played in Huntington, West Virginia, which is 30 miles from my house.
Yeah.
So I'm over there early. There he is walking around the streets of Huntington. It's my guy, it's Rick Richards.
Yeah.
So I just freak out. So he goes in a record store, and we go in the record store, and I kind of corner him like that. It's just pretty much like what you see on Saturday Night Live, like, hey, you're Rick Richards, man. You're the Georgia Satellites. That's awesome.
And this is the first time I'd seen him
Oh, I
like that.
couldn't put a sentence
And
together.
I was doing most of the talking. And
Yeah.
back then, I didn't talk to hardly anybody.
It's like, hey, when you play Keep Your Hands to Yourself, that's awesome, man. Just all this stuff. He was super nice to me. And
Absolutely
Yeah.
nice.
Well, I get to know him later on in life, and I go to his house. He's just a good friend of mine now. I can call him and talk to him. And
Well, it's amazing that
Yeah.
Tyler or you two or whoever, they're people.
They are.
Oh, they are.
You find that out.
we
They
kind
are.
of
But
forget that.
to 20-year-old me, he was not. He was like, oh
Yeah,
my
oh,
gosh.
right. Yeah.
And it was just. And one thing that I really learned from that whole thing, looking back, is even though I was just a blabbering idiot, he was nice to me. It
Yes.
didn't make me feel stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I meet a lot of people now who seem almost that freaked out to meet me, which is just absurd to me because I'm the school teacher. But there are people very excited to meet me, and I know it's important to them.
How does that feel?
Well, I almost feel like a way it's like, if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't be doing this because I teach school for a living. That's really what I do. I happen to play music. But to them, that's an important experience.
Oh, yeah.
And I want it to be an important experience for them.
Yeah.
So, I'm as nice to people as I can be, and if they want to fangirl and take pictures, whatever, that's important to them, and I'm all in. I wanna make
So
them
have
have a
you
good
met
time.
Johnny Knoxville?
No, we've communicated on a messenger, but I haven't really met him yet.
I was curious.
I actually communicated with him today because we're going to play in L.A. next month, and he lives up there, and I'm going to try to get him to come to the show.
That'd be awesome.
It would be kind of cool. I told my friends last night, I said, man, I think I'm going to try and hang out with Johnny, in L.A. next month. He said, well, make sure you wear a cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
No joke.
I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about that.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, Johnny, be easy.
Because, man, they prank everybody.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
around
like
'em.
they were telling me about him macing some dude on the show they're on now, and it made a big problem. And I don't follow him that much. I don't know what he's got going, but
He's pretty,
nothing sacred, is it?
not
No.
really.
Yeah, I think he is who he is, and I think he's a very probably good person, and he's very unique.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
he turned foolishness into a good career.
Mhm.
Good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I want to talk about Kentucky music while we're here.
Good.
It's so weird to me that I'm from Kentucky, so I'm a little biased, but it seems like there's been a lot of great artists come out of Kentucky, songwriters. Bill, we talked about Bill, Keith Whitley. Just Kentucky seems to have a different, especially where you are from, a different soul, a different personality that comes out of the music, and you can definitely tell it. Like Tyler and Sturgill's from Kentucky
Yeah.
too, right? So, why do you think Kentucky has a certain feel to it? And Keith had it, Bill had it. Bill's more our way, but Tyler has it, Sturgill has it, y'all have it, Tony has it, Hollerhead has it, and the guys coming out tomorrow have it. It's a different. I don't know if Mississippi Delta has a certain style of music.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky has a certain, I don't know,
An imprint.
imprint. I don't know how to explain
It's a
it.
good word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I could sit here and give you a good explanation for it, I'd write the book and make a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's hard to really figure out. You know, we all got that common accent, even though, you know, Eastern Kentucky a little different from Western Kentucky. But I don't know, just Appalachia in general has been an area that's always been isolated.
Do you think it's the struggles, or do you think it's I don't know.
You know, it's a lot of it in a way. The isolation, we kind of had to develop our own culture because it's not easy to get in or out to where we were. A lot of people struggled financially, so people entertained themselves. And I think that's where you saw music become just a big part of our culture. You know, when we say back home, everybody and their brother plays, and that's pretty much true. So many people play instruments there just because it's part of your family and that's what you do. But that still doesn't account for how people who are so good at it, and like you hear them saying two words, you go, oh, that's Larry Cordell. You just know. And I don't know if it's just because those are the people who they've had the struggles, they understand the culture, but they're able to project a truth. It's just projecting the truth. And a lot of the people that come from our side of the state, you can hear it in Ralph Stanley's voice, even though he's in Virginia still. You just hear it you hear it in Tyler's voice.
Yes.
And I don't know how to describe that. You're right, the Delta does it. You know, you look at the people coming from the Seattle, when the whole Seattle sound broke, you know, they have their thing and it works. I don't know why we have it, but we do.
We do.
What Jeff texts me. Dwight Yoakam.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Dwight Yoakam.
We have a audience submission.
Yeah.
You know, and Dwight from down there in Floyd County moved to Columbus, Ohio pretty early in his life. But still, his formative years when pretty shaped how he saw the world is there in Eastern Kentucky. You know, you listen to that first record, and he's singing a whole lot about, almost every song's about growing up down there.
You bet.
Right. And man, no, there's a guy that's had a great career,
too.
Yeah.
Man. Absolutely.
Just
I've seen him twice.
I think that's a good example, though, of, you know, just how the twang sort of.
Yeah.
Well, there's Loretta Lynn, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Think
That's a good one.
Think
The
about
Judge.
those songs.
Rick
Yeah,
Judge.
the Judge.
I'm just hitting the top ones that I know, but there's so many great artists.
Coming through here, we stopped at a little town, I don't even know where it was, you all know, where the Everly Brothers are from,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah. Central City,
Yeah,
maybe?
we stopped in Central City. Man, they got a great gas station down there.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Well, I think
I like good gas stations too, David.
I think along with like being secluded and just having that time to think. I mean, you have time to listen. I mean, if you listen out here, and I remember listening on our back porch we had the kind of washing machine that was on the porch, and you know it has a rhythm to it, and nobody, you know, we have that rhythm in Eastern Kentucky. That's what I heard. I heard the coal mine and stuff going on. You know, there's a rhythm to that. There's a rhythm to trains going by. There's that. There's time to think. There's time to, you know, talk about what you're thinking, even if you're talking in your head. But also, if you are doing those things, think about those kids that we're talking about right now. They were nurtured. They had this gift, and somebody said, "This is a gift worth being behind." And hey, let's help you get better at this. Let's support you. Let's do that.
Yeah. I think if Chris Rogers is out there, I don't have my glasses on. Is he out there? He's got a microphone. If anyone, we're going to move to the last part of the podcast.
Like Phil
now.
Donahue.
Yeah. You're not the father.
That wasn't Phil.
So
Now, Phil was a little bit before Jerry Springer.
Yeah, Phil was
and,
talking about
I remember Phil.
So that's why you took our glasses earlier.
If anyone, does anybody have any questions for David or Teresa, kind of get Chris's attention, and he'll bring the microphone over and you can ask
That's
him.
good. Somebody's got to do that.
Anybody?
I don't think
Jeff? Everybody scared?
Yeah. Nobody likes
Maybe they're not supposed to be here.
I'll ask a question.
Oh, that's awesome.
How many Tyler Childers T-shirts do you own, David?
One. You just wear it all the time.
Excellent.
That's all I got.
I
broke the ice. Who's
I've
next?
got a drawer, and a drawer and a half, I think.
Of Tyler Children's stuff?
Let me tell you.
Shirts?
During the
I'd
pandemic.
like to see how many shirts you have, Tyler Childers, compared to Jeff Swatzel with brewery shirts.
Oh.
Yeah. She bought everybody's shirt coming and going during the pandemic. I bet you bought 500 shirts
If you could, that's what you were supposed to do.
to support
right.
people
But,
playing
I
music.
mean-
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
But that's
She bought so much stuff. You'll never be able to wear it all.
And hey,
I try.
We have a question. Right here.
go ahead. Go ahead.
As a Kentucky band, do you listen like Blackstone Cherry?
I'll be right back, y'all.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man.
Yeah, let me tell you what. Let me tell you a story. Are you a Blackstone Cherry fan? Well, you know, they opened up for my band here a few years ago. Right when they were, you know, I'm good friends with the Headhunters. So right when they're first starting out, I had a band called Night Train, a halfway successful little rock band.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So Richard's like, hey, man, we want to get Blackstone Cherry open up for you all. We set up a show over in our hometown, and Blackstone Cherry come over and opened it for us. You know, they're just kids, and they were great. They were just rocking out, man. And if you've listened to them, you know that their influences, they're just Southern rock boys.
Oh, yeah.
But they got a lot heavier sound, and they're just phenomenal. And they've just blown up. And I guess in Europe they're a lot bigger than they are here. But they come and played, and I met John Fred. Man, I guess they were still in high school maybe, but they were just great. I just love those guys. Man.
And they're sweet.
Yeah, they're sweet. Kids.
They're sweet kids.
A guy I used to work with, he went on a cruise, and then he came back. He's like, man, I saw this band, Blackstone Cherry. They were fantastic on this cruise. And I was like, well, I think they're from Kentucky. I mean, I think.
And they're showmen, too. I mean, like,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
on.
That's what I think it was. Because I think there maybe, and I may be wrong on this, and they'll correct me. Is there a pipe tobacco called Blackstone Cherry?
Yes.
I think maybe.
that sounds.
And
That
those guys
sounds
will
right,
know
yeah.
that because I mean they're old school, even though they're in their 20s now. I mean, just the way they were raised and stuff, they're just old souls. But yeah, great guys.
And wonderful to their fans, just like the Headhunters.
Yeah,
that-
they learned that from their dad,
Yeah.
man, because I've never seen a band treat their fans any
No.
better than the Kentucky Headhunters. Have you
Yeah.
seen them or been around them? I mean, they will stand there and talk to you until you've talked all you want to talk. And
Yeah.
they do, and we've followed them around and been with them a lot. They do that in every town they go to.
Yeah.
And that means a lot.
That's a real deal.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think John Fred and them learned that,
Yeah.
and they treat people the same way.
We've got another question.
All right, go ahead, shoot away.
Hey, so we've heard a lot about the pleasures of being out on the road and having a music career, but what are some of the struggles you guys have had to endure through to get to where you're at?
Space.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we have an amp in between us right now in the car. The struggle is real. When we pass a pawn shop, you know, and right now it's the yard sales. Like we,
Yeah.
Yeah, this 400-mile yard sale.
yard sale.
hey,
Hey,
and
well,
I spotted a bass. You know, so when I see instruments, we're stopping.
That's going on tomorrow, right? What time does it start? Just when the sun comes up?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Definitely.
we're so on that, man.
Yeah.
I
They're so
know.
on that.
I think it started on the 1st, so
So,
Oh, yeah.
it's already been picked through a little bit.
I
Y'all
know,
better hurry
that-
up.
Yeah.
so we need to sell some T-shirts tomorrow to make room, so we can get rid of at least one box.
Hey, I'll give you a straighter answer on that. You know, just talking about getting to where we are. We
Trying to
played a
suck
whole
your
lot
blood.
of shows for $50 and a hamburger. And I mean, it's those shows where you go in and you're playing 3 sets and people want to hear you play Fleetwood Mac and they don't much want to hear what you're doing. And we
Wait.
played a whole lot of those. But you know, you make a lot of solid fans when you do that. You hone your craft and you get better on your instrument. But I mean, there's shows, and still, like, you know, if you've seen us, we wear some costumes when we play. Some places we have elaborate dressing rooms, and it's awesome. And a lot of times we dress in the parking lot, or we'll get in the car and get ready. I mean, it's not all glamour. And another thing that's hard about doing what we do is to try to, and maybe this is not so bad for her, to try to eat healthy.
Oh,
I mean, I
I'm
try
sure.
to eat healthy. But one of my favorite parts about coming to a town is you get to know the cool restaurant and you go and eat. And I don't want to eat at McDonald's. I don't want to eat Texas Roadhouse. I want to go where the old people are eating.
Yeah.
That's how you
Right.
find it. We'll
Yeah.
drive around the town, and wherever you see the old people going to the restaurant, that's where we're
That's
going.
it.
yeah.
So you find them restaurants, like we stopped at one today. It's called the Lakeview Dairy Bar. And man,
Oh, yes.
even I got a bologna and cheese and egg biscuit and a milkshake for breakfast. and I'm trying to be healthy and not eat that stuff.
Milkshake for breakfast?
Yeah.
Oh,
Trying.
yeah.
But man, it was so good.
That's healthy.
Oh, and let me tell you, there was only one poor old girl working there, and she's taking all the orders and cooking all the food. She said, "Now, honey, it's going to be about 20 minutes." I said, "I don't care."
Yeah.
And so then she started screaming at us to come and get it. And then the icing on the cake was when she gave me my food, she got a radio playing in the back. I swear to God, it was playing "He Stopped Loving Her Today" with George Jones. Like, man,
That's perfect.
it's the greatest thing in the world. So that's the downside to it.
One more. We got one
That
more.
doesn't sound like a horrible, but downside.
Oh, it was, it was cool.
This is the questions from Brian Bennett. He's been doing our video on our online feed tonight.
Wait,
So.
this on video?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Right there in front of you. Yeah.
There's even closed caption.
Oh,
There-
yeah.
Oh.
We didn't
closed
turn that
caption.
off,
Caption
obviously.
doesn't do well with my
No, it
accent.
doesn't. No.
Yeah, it probably isn't picking up our.
Y'all talked a little bit about finding your sound earlier. She's on the drums, and hey, you're kind of a drummer, and I'm going to make this sound, and we're going to incorporate some bass and so on and so forth. So, how was that a challenge for you when you were talking about using something that was a little bit augmented, not necessarily in front? And you guys are very interactive with your crowd. And how did that project when you found your sound, and especially over COVID, and where crowd interaction necessarily wasn't a big thing, but that's a huge part of your show. How did that reflect with your guys' show, and how has that influenced since COVID's been over?
Well, even before, when we were just playing like a normal band with a bass player and drummer, and she was playing acoustic, I would have a lot of conversation back and forth with the audience. But then, when COVID hit, you're not supposed to really be in the crowd and be mixing it up a whole lot. I don't know if that's answering your question, but, I got a wireless guitar. I love AC/DC, and Angus was legendary for going out in the crowd and playing guitar, and Bon Scott would carry him around throughout the crowd. And that's back, he had a cable, and they were trying to feed a cable out through there. But just to see Angus go out in the audience and play, people thought that was a big deal. It really ain't a big deal. But so I got me a wireless, and now I like to get out in the crowd and run around, and it's just fun to go out and talk to people while you're playing. And it's quite a spectacle, and I like doing it. I do want to touch on something else. We were talking about finding their sound. And I've never really told her this. I bought a bunch of guitar pedals, and I don't like to use a whole lot of pedals, but this one pedal had a fuzz setting and a bass setting. And I was just goofing off with it one time, and I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. It's making a fuzz guitar sound and a bass sound at the same time. So I had that pedal, and then after we kind of jammed, I thought, well, there are better pedals that will do this even better, and that's when I bought the one I used to try to get that sound. And to me, it's almost like kind of if you listen to a lot of Motorhead and the way Lemmy plays bass, his bass sounds like a guitar, but it's still bass. And so even though they're a three-piece band, or they were at the end, there's a lot of sound going on. And Cheap Trick's another example, because their bass player used a 12-string bass. So even though they're basically a three-piece band, you listen to them, you go, oh my gosh, there's a lot more instrumentation here than what it sounds like. So a lot of the songs we do sounds real punky like that in a way, because you got those two different signals coming out of my guitar. And it's interesting, when Johnny Knoxville, some way he saw a video we made, and it's like, this is my new favorite band. And when Johnny Knoxville says something like that, a lot of people pay attention. And so all these LA punks, and we're talking people my age who were into like X and all those bands, the Cramps and stuff, they latched on to what we were doing, and they loved Honey with her outfit and the way she played drums, and I think just our rawness. And so when we're going out to LA, our booking agent sent me my listing of all the tickets we sold for the upcoming tour, and we've sold more tickets in LA than anywhere, because those punks really like what we're doing. Which is bizarre, because laid back country picker is sort of a country guy. But not really, though. Not in this incarnate. When you see us play now, we're a rock band. I got an accent, but we're a rock and roll band.
No doubt.
That's what it feels like when I
Yes.
listen.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you with the V.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like to push that as far as I can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still some people's like, man, you're playing good country music. No, not really. We're not. But I still say I am, but I'm not.
Any more? All right. This is what we call the wrap up
Oh,
section.
we're in the home stretch.
We call it Monty's favorite part.
This is Monty's favorite
Oh,
part,
Lord.
and it's very, very serious.
They always
And
give me junk over this year.
so I got a few questions in the wrap up. Do you have any wisdom on a great marriage and amazing life? Because we think you have. Obviously, you've been married 39 years. You said, and we think you've had an amazing life. And do you have any wisdom on how y'all did it, or is it just? Well, I didn't mention this early. You one of your mottos, it seems like, is play good music and treat people right. Is it?
It is. We're playing country music, treating people right.
Yeah. Do you have any wisdom on marriage or how to live an amazing life?
Let's hear that, Teresa. What do you got?
Let's hear that, Dave. Well, I just think, there's so much. Because, I mean, you got to like the person you're with. I mean, if you don't like them, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But,
But
you know, you're treating each other right.
there you go.
You know? I mean, you like this person, so you want to support them and I don't know what to say. Why am I crying?
I don't know.
But
I'm
you
not
want
crying.
what's best for the other person, and because you like them, because you love them, you know, you that's just amped up. You know,
and two, you know, it's not like we've had a perfect 39
No.
years and there's never been a problem.
No.
I've done some stupid stuff.
not train,
I've done some stupid stuff.
not train about killed me.
Well, you didn't-
Listen to my first record.
You didn't wake up hungover though.
One time.
Yeah, I know that time. But you know, I've done some plenty of dumb stuff. But like she says, we care about each other and we find ways to forgive each other for it. And the empathy is probably the biggest thing, to put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about how they see it. But you know, something you said is like we've had just a beautiful life together. We have, and we know it. We know we have. Like we wake up every day. Like we said it today. It's like, man, we're just living a charmed life. Because we woke up, we played a show last night, and it went well, and we knew we were coming here today.
Yeah.
We get to travel from town to town, and we get to drink milkshakes for breakfast.
Yeah.
And we just have, and we get to be in the car together.
You're with your best friend every day.
Yeah, I am. I'm with her all
yeah.
the time. And two, we're to the point where, like, if I do something cool and she's not with me to see it, then I don't even want to do it. Like, you know, I want to go do this, but
Like
I want her to be
eating.
with. Yeah.
Right.
Like going out to eat. Like that's torture. I mean, I've done it before, but I would much rather have
Yeah, if
you
we're
at
not
the-
together, I'll
yeah.
just eat a bologna sandwich and call it quits. You
Yeah.
know. We just
Yeah.
want to share everything with each other, and we just really enjoy each other's company because we're pretty much in that car together and a hotel together and on stage together all the time.
This is what works for us, you know.
Yeah.
So you just had to find what works for you. What do you want out of this? Well, think about that when you're looking for that person. You know, what do you want out of it? If you're wanting to get married, what do you want out of a marriage? What do you want out of the person that's going to be across the table from you, hopefully for the rest of your life? You know, think about those things, and sometimes, you know, if you think about them long enough and talk about them long enough, sometimes, you know, the door opens. And I'm telling you, I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't met David, if I hadn't liked Tom Petty. You know, I'm telling you, because I was this little girl out in this rural part of the world, listening to pop radio, trying to figure out where the next diamond is up in the coal mines, because that's where I hung out. And I don't know how I didn't get snake bit or mauled by a bear or whatever, because I surely wasn't quiet when I was up there, because I was squalling and singing and stuff. But you know, the future that I saw as that little girl, it wasn't very far. It surely wasn't at Red Rocks. I always wanted to sing and play, and David made that possible. I mean, I always sang, and I grabbed a guitar and tried to play it on my own, and I played what I found out to be G and C. Later on, it was almost G and C. But, you know, he made that possible, and he made me see things differently. And, yeah.
Brainwashed you.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
We listen to that Judas Priest record backwards. You know? Look at us now.
But I think we're each other's biggest cheerleader.
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely are.
It's a great thing to see and a great thing to watch, because I see it with Jeff and Sherry. I see it with Cole and Brittany and Monty and Kim. I see it with a lot of people when they're with the right person and they love the right person, and amazing life is what I say, and you can see it. You can see it in their face. They might not know that you can see it, but you can see it.
And it's a good thing when you know it, and that's not being conceited about it. But I just know how lucky we are to have each other and to do what we're doing. It's just we couldn't be any luckier. Maybe hit the lottery. That's about the only other thing. It would make us a bit happier.
No doubt.
But we just have different. We go to better yard sales.
Shorter yard sales, hopefully.
Yeah.
You'd have a bigger vehicle to put the stuff in.
That's right. Yeah. You'd have a limousine Crown Vic.
We would.
Now you didn't warn them about the very ending.
Well, I'm going to start with you, Monty. This is the ending of the podcast that everybody dreads, because it's so.
Everybody dreads it.
Yeah, because this is the part where we give some life wisdom, just whatever you have that you can give the listeners to anything that you've been holding on to that could help somebody. We always try to start with Monty, and I'm rambling because I'm giving him a chance to think, because he never has anything.
You come up with
you want me to go?
This is life lessons.
So, I really don't have anything right now. Could you go? I'm kidding. No, earlier I was thinking about this because we were going to have them on, and I got to thinking about the name of his band, and Laid Back. And it's something you said earlier that I'd already thought about it, and then you said it earlier, but it's just not taking life too seriously. And man, a lot of people need to learn that in this world. If you can't take life too seriously every day, or you're just never going to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot to learn with that. So that's my words of wisdom for this one.
That's good. That's good.
I
Cole?
think that's a home run, Monty.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna piggyback on that, and kind
Well,
of
you can't piggyback on my. No.
I'm gonna. That's why you go first. And I'm gonna piggyback on what David said. You know it when you feel it. If something's good and right, you know it. It's not like happening to you and you're absent. And don't take things too seriously, and just accept it when the good things happen. Acknowledge them and let it happen. Chase.
Yeah. You want me to go, or y'all want to
No,
go?
you go ahead.
We were in West Virginia last week, and I told y'all, and I thought about this. I fell in the river, and we were fly fishing, and it got dark, and we didn't have a flashlight, and we were trying to work our way back. We had felt bottom shoes on, of course, because you can't walk out there without them. But we were walking back, and I fell in the river to about my chest, about 50 degrees outside, and the water's whatever. It's cold. But the next day we went back out, and we've all been in streams in LBL or Eastern Kentucky, where when you're in the river and you get up on the dry rocks, or they're kind of halfway in the water, and you look across there, it's like, I got to get way over there. And if you try to plan your route out, it never kind of works. You just got to commit, and then your brain kind of figures out where you're going, and your feet just do the work. Yep. You just start walking, and you're going. You trust your feet, and you commit. And I mean, that's about like life is. Just take it as it flows, and throw the bad stuff off to the side, and keep going in the right direction. And God or the universe, whatever, will just trust your feet, move in the right direction, and it'll work out. That's my wisdom.
That's solid.
I don't know, David or Teresa.
Teresa.
Well, I always like to say that my gut has gotten me, has steered me correctly more times than it hasn't. And I always try to put a pattern to my gut. Like, when I feel this way about something, did it work out the last time I felt this way, or is this something trying to tell me not to do something? Just try to figure out what your gut's trying to tell you, or what's your gut's trying to lead you to or away from, and find that pattern and follow it. It's
All right, I like it. So here's my advice to you guys. So if you find yourself in disagreement with people and you're having an argument and you think you're right, or in fact you know you're right and they're wrong, don't hold people's head under the water. Don't make them be wrong. Allow people to save face. Let them be right maybe. And just come to some agreement where you don't champion over them, and let them win sometimes. Because it's not that important. If you know you're right, you're right. It doesn't matter. But give people a way out to where you don't make them look bad. And that's always a good way to treat people. Because you can do that. No matter what the situation is, you can work it out in a way where you haven't made them look or feel horrible, even though you're probably right. And so find a way to do that.
Wow. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
That's good. We want to thank you for coming on.
Definitely.
Yes.
We're glad you're here,
Thanks
and we
for
always
having us.
love when you're here. And I know tomorrow's going to be great.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
It'll be
And
super fun.
y'all are amazing people.
Well, all this serious stuff you heard tonight, that's out the window tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's going wireless, and he's gonna walk
coming right
in
out
front of your
there.
chairs.
Now that's different for the Luna Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lona shows some real stuff.
Yeah.
Mine's maximum foolishness.
Y'all are great.
Looking
Well,
forward to
we
tomorrow.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
What you
coming.
guys
This has
do.
been awesome.
Just a
Thank you
Lyfe
for
Chaser
this.
and what you stand for here, this is great.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I love what
This
you
is
guys
very
are doing.
cool.
This is our first live situation, so Chris Rogers, Brian Bennett, both y'all. This is a team
Yeah,
effort. Everyone involved.
That's
Thank
our
you.
audio.
Yeah.
Thank
At
you.
Dam
Video.
Brewhaus.
You got the coolest clothes.
It does.
That's my mom.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that's my mom.
She's a cool dress.
I want to give a kind of rundown tomorrow. Justin Wells, Tony Logue, Laid Back Country Picker, Luna and the Mountain Jets, Lance Rogers, Hollerhead, Late July, and Uncle Jesse.
You bet.
What's
That's-
Uncle Jesse about?
They're
You're gonna-
really. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, you're going to want to get here at noon.
Yeah.
Is that right?
They're-
He had Caleb Clark as their lead guy, and Jelly Roll has cut one of his songs.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
He's a good songwriter.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I want to thank y'all again.
Yep.
I will say we've met some interesting people on the podcast. Interesting people. Me traveling around the world, but I can say that I do love y'all, and y'all are great people, and I appreciate all y'all have done as educators and people and musicians, and y'all do treat people right.
No, thank you.
And we've
so much.
enjoyed your stories tonight.
Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, this is Lyfe Chaser live at the Brewhaus. So,
Hey, where's the Broadhouse out, Jeff?
come out tomorrow. I don't know if anybody's listening, so come out tomorrow. It's been great. We'll see you next time. Lyfe Chaser out.
Very good.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
That was awesome.
Great. I hope y'all had a
Oh,
good time.
man.
Your questions are awesome.
Yeah, very well done.
Thank you.
Chase did his homework for sure on some of those.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we